What's going on, everyone? It's Azor Ahai here, and we are live, and we are really excited. I have an awesome panel for you this evening. I'm joined by my esteemed panel of guests, and tonight we have a very special guest, and I'm going to introduce him first. We're going to be reviewing the episode Stormborn for all of you, and we have Axechucker from Watchers on the Wall. We met him at Con of Thrones. Get hype! The hype! Oh my God! What's up, Axie?
How's it going, man? I'm an esteemed guest now. Am I esteemed?
Esteemed, dude.
Am I?
Yes.
That's awesome. I've never been esteemed before.
Well, we're really happy to have you, and I know me and you have been talking back and forth about the episode, so we're excited to get your opinions this evening. So thank you so much for joining us. And his real name is Kenny, but his name is Axechucker. Feel free to call him whatever you like. I'm pretty sure he's okay with both. We also have Gemma, Secrets of the Citadel, my lady.
Hello, thank you for having me on this most auspicious of days. I can't wait to get into this. Let's do it.
And we have, last but not least, George is rocking the Euron beard in honor of Euron Greyjoy being so badass last night. George, what's going on, my right-hand man?
Not much, Kyle. It's just Euron George Joy here, and I'm ready to go. Talk about some Euron action.
So we got a really awesome panel for you guys. Like I said, we're going to have a fun format. We're going to go over some of the different things that were discussed in this episode. There were some different themes on Ice and Fire parallels, fear and love, truth and lies. Obviously, the word Stormborn was reflected in many different ways throughout the episode. But let's start off with the very first scene of the episode, Axie. And we start off with the storm. And this mirrors Daenerys Targaryen's birth. She was born in a storm, and she was named Stormborn. And then we enter a very intense conversation with Varys, where he tells what basically he's all about, and Daenerys kind of gives him the gusto. So what did you think of the very first scene, and what did you think of the symbolism?
Well, I loved it. I love that they opened like that. This is a Brian Cogman episode, of course, so you're gonna get your good Brian Cogman stuff. I love when he writes the episodes, and this one was Dave and Dan, I think, tend to give Dave Hill and Brian Cogman what they believe to be the lesser episodes, but as usual, Cogman lifted it up, and it was excellent in its own right. And the opening scene I thought was fantastic. Tyrion finally talked, so that was a plus, right? We got no dialogue from him in the first episode. Yeah, someone commented that he made a half $500,000 for 0 words, just being there on screen, and his bank account went way up. So I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, it was great. Going right into it, you got Dany basically questioning Varys. I felt like this is a conversation that maybe should have happened before they crossed the Narrow Sea, but they didn't have time for it, and symbolically, I think it was better. It was better handled here, so it was good. I loved how you sort of had this dark, almost an ominous feeling of dark days to come. But yeah, Dany is she's large and in charge right here, man. I loved it.
It's really interesting to see her growth. She's very, very much like a Cersei. She's ruled over by emotion, but she's showing that she's a little bit more wise and listening to her compatriots. She considers Varys' opinion, and I thought that was an excellent moment, because I know a lot of people are down on Daenerys' character and feel that she's one note. I'm going to throw it to Gemma here, and we're going to bounce off that. Gemma, what were your thoughts on the whole Varys basically saying that he's for the small folk? We've been waiting for these answers for a very long time in the books, and in the show we kind of knew what he was all about, but we got the answer.
Well, Varys has been for the realm from day one, hasn't he? I'm like Axe said, they must have been on that ship for quite a while. So, I'm wondering, did they just, was it just really awkward and silent for months and months? And did they just ignore each other? I don't know. I mean, I'm torn. On the one part of me thinks logically they should have had this conversation months ago, but I wanted to see that conversation. I really, really would have been annoyed if they'd have just glossed over all of these issues that needed to be discussed. What I loved that Varys did, he was trying to sort of find out what she was going to respond to, what was going to work, and he's a quick thinker. He starts off with, all I knew about you was that you existed and you were beautiful. Nothing. Deadpan. Okay, so she doesn't want to know she's beautiful. Okay, so you turn this situation round to your advantage. Again, nothing. She cuts Tyrion off. She's not interested. Okay, a different track. Honesty. Let's go with your father was terrible. Let's see how she rolls with that one. Actually, that's the one she responds to, so he really, he goes for that. And they seem to have smoothed that over, but there still was that little, to Melisandre, this is the day that we're pardoning support the wrong king and things like that. I'm really interested in the various Melisandre might come out of this, so we'll see how that one goes.
Yeah, great points, Gemma. Obviously, she is being tested in every form. I mean, she has a great council around her. And if you're going to be a truly great leader, you have to listen to people and take their advice or their opinions, or at least consider them. And I think that Varys was testing her in that moment. Great point. George, we also see that Daenerys told Varys that if she's going to fail, that she would like to be told instead of being stabbed in the back like maybe a Littlefinger would do, like, hey, you're not good anymore. I'm just going to drop you like it's hot at the curb. You know what I mean? I thought that was awesome. But can you give us your thoughts on the scene? I know you always have a great point.
No, I mean, just following up on what you said, she's holding Varys to actually be one of her advisors for real. He's worked for other people before, but he hasn't necessarily had their best interest in heart. And what she's saying is, I'm putting my trust in you just as much as you're putting your trust in me. Let's meet as equals. I want you to tell me when I'm not doing what I need to be doing. You need to tell me first. I'm your most important priority because, as you said, you want the people to have everything be as good as it can be, and I'm going to be the power by which that can happen. So if you can trust in me and you can guide me the right way, then I can be the person that you need me to be. But we have to meet and we have to trust one another on that.
And it's surprising because, like I said, I wasn't sure if Daenerys was going to make this jump because we know that she is very focused on achieving this goal, which is restoring the dynasty of House Targaryen, restoring her family name, which has been sullied and usurped. So I felt that this scene, it gave us a little hope for that. I felt like Daenerys was making a little ground. Now, did anybody want to jump in on this scene before we jumped into the Melisandre part? Because I know there's a lot to talk about in that specific scene.
Actually, I just want to add agreement to both of you guys because I saw the Varys fishing part as well. Some people commented that, oh, he's really sweating now. I didn't see him sweating. I saw him maybe slightly taken aback, but he was sort of testing the waters with her as much as she was testing with him. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, the back and forth was great, and it shows the dynamic of her council, that people, they all have different challenges in the way they approach things, but it shows that they can get it done even though they may have differences in the way they think. And I thought it was awesome that Varys finally did truly say that he was for the people, and we do need someone like that in the story because they aren't represented very well, other than maybe the wildlings and someone like Davos Seaworth, who's from Fleabottom. We're going to move into the next scene. Next, we see actually Grey Worm say we have a Red Priest from Ahai that's visiting Dragonstone, and we all know from the photos from the trailer and the trailer snippets that was going to be Melisandre from Ahai. And next, we get the scene, and it's really awesome. I found it was awesome that Melisandre and them actually started talking in High Valyrian first. It felt like the scene was alien. It felt like we were learning something new. And every time, I don't know, just that language is so beautiful. I remember when we were interviewing David Peterson, how in awe we were about just hearing specific words and their meaning. But Axie, can you tell us a little bit about this scene and how you felt? There's obviously some revelations in the scene, the male, female, the ice and fire, the parallels that were going on there. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I really liked it. David Peterson actually tweeted out how pleased he was with the scene and how both. Well, he always loves it when Emilia speaks High Valyrian, but how well Carice handled it as well. And it was, it was great. I can't remember if we've ever heard Carice speak High Valyrian before. I don't. Maybe she chanted it at some point, but
we have heard her speak it with Thoros when Thoros was with the Brotherhood.
Ah, yes, very good. Okay, good recall.
I was going to say that exactly. But yeah, they have that little as you do.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah, cool. But yeah, it was great seeing that. It's interesting. The show has not yet, and I don't know if it ever will, introduce the prophecy of the Valancourt. And this is a book nerd thing, but it will be interesting to see if they state, if they bring the Valancourt in, if they state that the Valancourt can also be male or female, since it's technically a little brother term. So yeah, that's I'm very curious about that.
Now in this scene, we hear kind of the words of Maester Aemon come back to life, because he was someone that also thought the same thing as Melisandre, which is interesting. And he's someone that, unlike Melisandre, couldn't interpret her visions in the way she truly would like to. Maester Aemon is someone that's very trustworthy because of his experience in life. So I think that's pretty interesting. But Gemma, I know you have a lot to dump on this scene. We were talking about it before we came on air. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, there was that whole kill the boy kind of vibe, wasn't there, going on with them? And Olenna's scene with Daenerys was a very similar thing. I love the way did the same, you know, I was a slave, blah, blah, blah. And then Daenerys, literally the first thing she comes in, her first words were, I was a slave. And I'm grateful to meet the breaker of chains. And it's like they've got this foreknowledge of who they think she is, and they've looked at her deeds, and they think, well, this woman's obviously against slavery, which is fantastic. So if I go in with that vein, then we've got that common ground. And then Daenerys says, you know, you are most welcome here. Off to a nice start. That's gone off great. You know, Melisandre will probably mess that up at some point because things go for her. But yeah, it was great to see them together. We're going to have this all season, aren't we? They finally met. Oh, these two have finally met. Oh, these two have finally had that conversation that we've been waiting for 6 episodes, 6 seasons. Oh, so-and-so's finally reunited. We're just going to get this over and over again. Out to me the most in that particular scene was when Daenerys says the words Jon Snow. And it just made me realize she's never said Jon Snow before, and that's going to be such a monumental meet and greet. I was really glad that Melisandre was trying to turn Daenerys' focus north, saying, oh, you know, there's a Night King and there's some White Walkers. She wants Dany to hear that from somebody who's seen that for themselves. So, and thank you to Missandei for clearing up that whole gender neutral thing. I think casual show watchers.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing too. You know, I have my own pet peeve theory, because the Stranger is gender neutral in the Seven Gods, that Arya could be a representation of the Valancourt. Maybe we'll get into that later because George loves Arya. But George, let's get it to you. She also says that prophecy is a fickle thing, which is very interesting. So that's another thing that we have to look at, because Melisandre has been wrong before, and we hear Varys basically call out that she's served Stannis Baratheon, and you know, that she says is a prince. So she's pointing these things out, and she doesn't quite trust Melisandre, but she's intrigued. So what were your thoughts on that? Melisandre kind of just strolling in there. We know that Jon and Davos aren't really in line with what she's doing, because she did burn Shireen.
Well, where Melisandre's concerned, we have a couple things to consider. One, she understands prophecy, and she knows that certain things are going on in the future, but her record really hasn't been that good for choosing when she personally tries to interpret what the vision is. However, if the Lord of Light kind of pushes her in the right direction, she is able to get it right. Like, I think she's now sensing that Jon probably is the chosen one rather than Stannis. So that's her way of kind of backing out of the power of prophecy, is her saying, oh, it's fickle, it's this, it's that. But on the other hand, she does have certain powers. She does have certain things that she can bring to the table. She does have followers, and she is a power to be reckoned with in the fight against the Great Other and against the White Walkers. And she's willing to bring all of that magic and power and everything with her to defend the world. And that is her first care, above and beyond anything else. If I think we may even see her die in that service to make sure that the forces of darkness do not win. So as whether or not you like her or don't like her, as an ally, she's willing to fight to the death to make sure that the forces of the Great Other do not win.
And it's really interesting, too, because I talked about the parallels of Ice and Fire, like the parallels within the episode, like fear and love and truth and lies. We both hear Varys and Melisandre speak truth from the heart, I believe, in this episode. And I think that's possibly a reason why they may get along. We may see that next episode. We may actually see them have a conversation, and we know that Varys is kind of uncomfortable with some of these things. So it'll be interesting to see people out of their comfort zones, especially Melisandre. She's on her own now. But yeah, I thought it was another great scene, and it felt really alien to me. I really enjoyed the High Valyrian sense to it. Did anybody want to add any other points before we jump into the North?
Just real quick about speaking of reunions, next week, Davos is going to see Melisandre again. I hope she survives that whole thing to be able to fight the I keep saying the others, but the White Walkers and the forces of the North. So I hope she survives that scene. I don't see Davos as being cold enough. I mean, I understand he loves Shireen and he still has probably this great anger in him, but I don't know if he's cold-blooded enough to just out and out kill her when he sees her again. What do you guys think?
I don't think that Jon would allow that. I mean, well, if he's in the presence of Daenerys, he might ask Davos to chill. You know what I mean? Because this might actually be a situation where Jon has to be diplomatic with Davos, who's really the one who's the wise one.
The diplomat, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. So that's Gemma or George. Do you want to jump in on that? We're good.
Yeah, I think Melisandre will be shrewd enough to hide.
I don't think she really has a choice, right? Since we did George last, both times we're going to do him first. This time we're going to jump into the North, and basically we get Jon getting a letter from Tyrion Lannister, and it has a very special message in it, which very much warmed my heart. It calls back to the conversation that Jon and Tyrion had when they had their little adventure, kind of like in the Fellowship of the Rings. But Jon, what did you think about that, George? Jon getting the letter. Obviously, Sansa was skeptic about it, but we hear Davos being pragmatic and wise about it. Hey, we need dragons. We need fire. This is a tool that we could use in the War for Dawn. This is something, obviously, that Davos is. He's like, hey, how could we best use this to our advantage? Is Tyrion trustworthy? And then, obviously, Jon and Sansa both say yes. So what were your thoughts on that, receiving the letter?
Well, when you look at the letter, one thing that immediately came to mind was Jon even kind of called out Sansa, and he's like, you were married to Tyrion, you know him better than anybody, you know he's a decent dude. Of all the people who's going to try to screw us over, he's probably near the bottom of that list. And he's like, I went to the wall with him. I know him rather well too, and I think that this is the truth. I don't think that he's trying to bring us out or hurt us. They want to actually have a meeting because Tyrion's aware that there's a bigger problem. So, I thought it was a very true scene. I thought Sansa is, she's kind of paranoid after everything happened with Ramsay Bolton, and she has every right to be. So, ultimately, and she is, she questions Jon, which she has the right to do, and ultimately every time he's made a decision, she's gone with it. And now, and I'm just going to roll into this next part real quick for a second, which is when he decides that he's going to act on the letter and go south, and she says, but how can you do this? And he says, I'm going to put you in charge. What a better way to win over not the hearts and minds of his nobles, but to finally put that last nail in the coffin of his sister, who's questioning everything, and that is going to be the ultimate wedge that keeps them away from Littlefinger. He has now made her essentially Queen of the North and put her beyond Littlefinger's powers. So he just making that one decision, he's not only trying to go and find and bind the most powerful group in the Seven Kingdoms to help him fight against the White Walkers, but he's also sealed up any relationship issues that he had with his sister and with his followers in the North.
Yeah, and Gemma, you had mentioned something to me earlier about how you think that it's really interesting how Ned was a fish out of water in King's Landing, and now Littlefinger's a fish out of water in the North, and he's got like no, you know what I mean? You know, he's attracted to the Tullys. He's always loved Catelyn. It's kind of a weird analogy, but the fact that this is going on, he really doesn't have a pot to piss in anymore. Really, he doesn't.
I love this. When Ned went to King's Landing, he didn't understand how it worked. He didn't understand how those people spoke to each other, this verbal sparring that they used to do with each other. And Ned was the fish out of water. And now we've flipped those tables and Littlefinger doesn't have a clue what's going on. This specifically, and this is a scene that we're nowhere near covering yet, but it was the scene in the crypts. And or any of the other members of the small council that vibing there with, oh, she didn't think very much of you, did she? You know, they'd give as good as they'd take. There would be that verbal jousting almost, but this is the North. And Littlefinger doesn't understand that the Northerners have different rules, and Jon Snow showed him in no uncertain terms that the Northerners do things slightly differently, but maybe it wasn't just a Northern thing. Maybe a dragon had been woken there. Ooh. But as far as
waking dragons from stone. Oh, everybody in the chat, put that. Everybody in the chat, well done, spam Gemma. That fire emoji. Spam that fire emoji.
Well done.
But as far as Tyrion, well, Tyrion, Jon, yeah, okay, where am I? Tyrion and Jon, that's Chekhov's friendship. That has been since season 1, since the first book. We knew that had to come back around at some point. It's going to have a massively significant impact on pulling all of those characters together, that union between those two. It was a very warm, fond friendship and farewell that they had at the end. They shook hands, and what I noticed about the letter is the first thing Jon does, opinion, and that is exactly what she asked him to do last week. Yep. And that's what he did. So well done, Jon. Yeah, a bit later on he kind of, you know, but for now he is trying thoughts into consideration. So
it's, you know, it's funny that Jon's scene is almost right after Daenerys's, because they both kind of had a similar trajectory this episode. They both took their counsel and they applied these things that they were not necessarily failing at, but they're getting better at them. And it's like, oh, they're moving at the same pace, and we know that they're eventually going to collide and meet up next week, which is going to be huge. But actually, obviously, you know, there's been a lot of fake news over this revolt in the North, which has been pissing me off in all these videos. There's a huge scene with, you know, obviously Lady Lyanna and everyone voicing their opinions. Can you give us the down low on that scene and kind of go into the other letter where, you know, Jon's going into, hey, we need to trust Samwell Tarly, and we have a mountain of dragonglass. Logistically and strategically, this could help us.
Well, it's interesting because thus far, every time Lyanna has opened her mouth, it's been in support of Jon. So actually to see her suddenly go, wait, no, what? You're leaving? I mean, in the back of my mind, I'm kind of like, you know, are you crushing a little bit there, Little Bear? Are you like, you know, are you going to be missing your white wolf if he goes? I think there's a little teenage crush going on with Lyanna, but yeah, it was good. Just, I mean, yeah, to echo you guys, the fact that the Daenerys scene and the Jon scene seem to mirror each other in that they are both listening to their counsel, they're questioning the counsel, but they're ultimately, you know, moving forward with their own decisions. I think it's a good balance. I like the fact that the show sort of moved past the whole Jon versus Sansa headbutting thing that they've been doing, and that he's not an idiot. People like to characterize him sometimes as thick-headed, but he's learning. He's becoming a leader. He's becoming the king that he doesn't really want to be, but that's the role that he's settling into. And even if he's going off, that was still a command decision, you know, that he made. The one thing that does make me slightly nervous about this is the fact that Littlefinger is such a fish out of water, and I still believe he has one move left to make. So the fact that he now feels like he's without very few paths to travel, I think he may do something that's slightly desperate. And this is Game of Thrones, guys, so nobody's safe. So I'm a little worried about this Peter
Still
Baelish
the-
isn't done. I don't think he's finished.
So
So
let me ask you this, Axie. Could we have a hold the door moment with Littlefinger, maybe getting rid of someone? Because we had the plot leaks this season, and we've got a lot. We've had a lot of time to speculate. I don't know, man. Now you've got me triggered. I'm worried.
I was triggered as soon as I saw Littlefinger out of his element. I'm like, guys, don't ignore him. Don't. I mean, Sansa's doing her best to show that, she doesn't need him. But maybe in the back of my mind, I'm like, maybe you shouldn't make that so obvious, Sansa, because I love her and I don't want her to be in any jeopardy.
Lay it on us.
If you back
what's his last plan?
Go ahead. George has a point. George,
George,
get in there. Get in there, George. Get in there.
I can't. I'm not going to be able to wait now. Just tell me, what do you think he's going to do? What if it comes? What's his kamikaze plan? What's his last thing?
That's my problem, George. Is I don't know. That's my problem, and that's why I'm hearing.
Speculate.
Oh, geez, guys, we got a donation. Erin actually donated pre-stream again. She donated $25 yesterday already, or $30. What? And we got a $10 donation tonight. Everybody knows what to do. Spam the fire emoji in the chat. We are looking into the flames tonight, trying to give you all of that gasoline. Pour it on the wildfire. But thank you so much. And we will get to that Q&A period after. I'm going to save all the questions from anyone that has them, and we'll get to a few questions after. So thank you so much for that, Erin. Did anybody have a final point? Because I know there was a lot in the throne room scene. Obviously, actually, we can kind of segue maybe into the crypts now, where Jon and Littlefinger actually have their confrontation. And we see the Ned statue. That actually probably made me sadder than anything in the episode. The Nymeria stuff we'll talk about after, but it looked just like him too.
I know. It was a great likeness. I was like, it's Ned. He's back.
So I'm going to throw this one to you, George. Gemma, was it you next? I can't remember. You guys can fight over this one, rock, paper, scissors. But
fight to the death.
I thought it was interesting because we got more of Jon's dragon side. The fire side, obviously, we know his mother's statue is down there, but we know he is more like Ned than any other character in the series. Rickon is buried down there. I'm not sure if we're going to do anything with that. But the fact that Littlefinger was trying to get in there and Jon didn't have any of it was very surprising to me. Not because Jon Snow doesn't know nothing. We know he knows quite a lot from his experiences in life. But I don't know. What do you think about this one? I was surprised at this. I mean, we saw it in pictures, but I didn't expect it to happen this way. I didn't expect him to say, I'm going to kill you if you touch Sansa.
We debated this over and over and over, didn't we? We speculated all the variables, all the possibilities. One half of me was utterly convinced Littlefinger was going to say something about Lyanna. There was going to be a big troll about his mother and maybe insinuations about that relationship between Lyanna and Ned. But then the other half of me thought, no, D&D are just going to completely tease us with this. They've put him in the crypts. We've seen the photos. There's the statue of Lyanna. They are not revealing R+L=J yet. And I wasn't even disappointed they didn't. I thought, yeah, Littlefinger's probably saying something creepy about Sansa, and that Ned statue just made up for any disappointment I could have had over that one. It was. I actually I counted gasps when I was writing my review of this earlier on. I had 4 gasps, and the Ned statue was my number 3 gasp, and that was a big ooh at the screen, and that was a wow moment. And I'm sure everybody in the comments is thinking exactly the same. That statue was just thinking, and his mother was there. Wonderful, George, just beautiful.
George, clean this all up for us, man. Like, I mean, obviously you're a Littlefinger fan. You dressed up as Littlefinger at Con of Thrones and triggered me almost every day that I was there with your goddamn Arya's gonna die shit. Finish this one up for us, George.
Well, I mean, Littlefinger played, unless he's actually trying to trigger Jon, he really played the wrong card down there in the crypts. Why, of all people to go after, why make that comment about Cat and then segue it right into Sansa, right in front of Jon? I was actually surprised they didn't kill him right then and there. But since he didn't, now we kind of know, Axie, I think this is the direction that we're going to see Littlefinger try to go. And what he's going to do is try to play everyone off to where he's going to end up marrying Sansa. Because now, if he can get Jon killed, and Sansa is, by acclaim, Queen of the North, especially because Bran has not shown up yet. Not only does he have claim to the Vale, but he also has claim to the North. And those are two of the, the North is the largest of all the kingdoms. The Vale has perhaps, they and Dorne have the two largest not broken armies. So, between those two things, he really does put himself in the place to, make a legit run at the Iron Throne. So I think that's what's going on in the back of his head. But at the same time, Arya showing up is going to throw a giant problem in that set of wheels. And ultimately, and I'm going to still stay to this, she's going to kill him with that cat's paw dagger while wearing Sansa's face. But someone else has added one new part to this. And this, I do agree. I can't remember who said it. So in the chat, whoever it was, you're correct. I believe you. It's going to happen up in the Broken Tower. And Sansa's going to ask Littlefinger to go up there. And when he trusts her, that's when she's going to be able to say to him, remember when I told you to never trust me? Or you said to never trust someone? She's going to whip it off, cut his, and then chuck him out the tower.
Oh my God!
Right? Is that not that's about as big as this can be, and I think that's going to be the stop the internet moment for this scene when that happens. So,
oh man,
there you go.
That would be incredible.
That would be a great death.
You know what? Too, I something I just realized is Brienne has been very, very close to Sansa, and we know that she swore an oath to Lady Catelyn, and we don't have Lady Stoneheart in the books. I think that Brienne's going to be serving her, but for show purposes, we had that little grin from Brienne. And when Arya comes back, I think that Brienne would even get along with Arya even better. Despite what happened with Sandor in that fight, they're very much alike. So I think that the fact that Brienne and Tormund are still in Winterfell, I feel a little bit better. I don't feel great that Littlefinger's there, but I still feel better if Arya gets there because Sansa has said that she feels safe being home, and she is happy to be home. And I think that I don't think that she would give that up with what she's shown and said towards Littlefinger in the past 2 episodes. So I think that we are kind of head there, and I think that Littlefinger is going to try something but ultimately fail. I don't think he can get there at that point. Final points on the Winterfell stuff. We're going to move into King's Landing next, where there's some pretty juicy stuff.
I just feel like our team is finally coming together now. Just even thinking about what George is saying. Arya gets there and she removes Littlefinger, and now we've got Arya and Brienne and Sansa and Team Winterfell going full bore. I have no words, dude. I love it.
Yeah, same. Oh, sweet. We have
I'm right there.
Oh, go ahead.
George. Oh, go on.
No, I was just gonna say we have 200
I'm
people.
I'm right there with George.
Go ahead, Gemma.
We've got a delay on ours. Kyle doesn't hear me until a split second after I speak, so that's why we do that all the time. This is what happens when I live thousands of miles away. I'm with George on the Littlefinger thing because Sansa reversal, hasn't it? Sansa's been played by everyone in King's Landing. She's been played by Littlefinger, Joffrey, Cersei, Ramsay. She's spent her whole life being played. That if she gets played again, that's really, it's boring, it's bad storytelling, and it does nothing for her arc, her character arc. She has to now reverse that and flip that, and she is definitely going to lure in, and he's going to be finding himself receiving a taste of his own medicine, essentially. That's, so great point. Let's move on to King's Landing.
And I'd like to thank the 200 people that are in the chat watching us right now. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We're having a great time. Obviously, really excited that Axie is here hanging out with us. And, we love to chat Game of Thrones as much as we can. Let's jump into King's Landing. There was obviously some awesome stuff going on there. We'll start with the first part of it. Basically, Cersei is propagating that the Mad King's daughter is ultimately this savage person who, you know, crucified all these people. But we know she did as an example to not be as an example to slavery, to show that slavery wasn't okay. She was obviously trying to scare the people in King's Landing that the Dothraki people were going to burn their villages and rape their women and enslave people. We know later on that that's not the case, and we'll talk about that. But what do you think about this one, Axie? You know, Cersei propagating these rumors. I talked about the different parallels that are going on in this episode, truth and lies. Especially to someone like Randyll Tarly. He kind of spoke up. He's like, listen, I'm going to tell you straight. Aegon the Conqueror had 3 dragons, and this is what's happening right now. You're kind of not giving me enough confidence to truly stand behind you. What did you think about Cersei and how she was operating and trying to convince people in the throne room?
Well, speaking of parallels, Cersei's sort of giving us some fake news parallels right about now, so I definitely love that. I was actually surprised by how well Jaime was able to play the game, because he pulled Randyll Tarly aside, and you could tell at first there was, you know, and it's interesting with Randyll Tarly, because on one hand, you know, he's this abuser of Sam, and you hate that. On the other hand, he has a level of honor probably that's friggin' to the roof. So he won't break his word. He doesn't want to do that. But Jaime, again, definitely pointed out, you've sworn 2 oaths. She has broken her oath to you by doing this and doing that, you know. And then the final little cherry hanging out there for Randyll is, by the way, wouldn't you make a wonderful Warden of the South? And you can see that definitely had an impact on him, because legacy for Randyll Tarly, I think, is everything. Much like Tywin Lannister, legacy means so much. You had Dick on there, and Cogman couldn't resist having Jaime poke fun a little bit at that name. But yeah, again, it was great. I really loved the deftness in Jaime. Cogman writes Jaime Lannister so well, and for me, this really stood out.
One thing that stood out to me too was the way she was describing Daenerys, Gemma, was that the things that she was propagating about Daenerys was actually the things that she had achieved by blowing up the Sept of Baelor.
Right.
She's more like, we hear Aerys named 2 times in the first 15 minutes of the episode. She's more like Aerys than anyone else, which is the crazy thing. So that's the thing. We know people that lie tend to do these things. They tend to twist or manipulate certain situations to their advantage, and that's exactly what Cersei is doing. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, we hear later on in the episode too, people, I mean, Randyll Tarly even says it, that they know that she blew up the Sept of Baelor, so people were kind of cool with that. That bothers me. I don't know.
I'm not sure if this is, and please don't lynch me, possibly lazy writing or not caring. Because I was convinced she was going to blame Dawn, she was going to blame Olenna, she was going to blame her enemies in general. There would be this big lie, this big manipulation, this big propaganda. She would use it. It was Daenerys as she went past, and she just bombed everything. And no, actually, she doesn't care what everybody thinks, and everybody seems to openly know that Cersei did that. And I'm a little bit confused by that. They've either missed a trick there, or Cersei just doesn't care. She's the queen, and she'll do what she wants, and maybe that's a powerful message that she wanted to send. But as far as the King's Landing scene with the Cersei, and talking about King Aerys, like you said, can we talk foreshadowing? Come on. Remember that time where Brandon and Rickard Stark got burnt? Oh, Sansa's going to remind us about it. And then Jaime's going to call Dickon the wrong name, one of the names that was one of the people that got burned.
Right.
And then going to talk about the Mad Queen, the Mad King's daughter, the Mad King's daughter. How many times do we need to be reminded about this scenario? And then Euron Greyjoy, off he trots to King's Landing with his in the form of Arya and her daughter. This is a queen daughter, whereas before we had a king with a father and a son. If that doesn't go down in almost exactly the same way, then bite me.
And you know what? The women of Dorne are passionate too. The fact that Illyria might be burned by a wildfire and Tyene might strangle herself by trying to get to her mother. We saw the connection that Tyene was very much closer with Illyria as well. Yara saying, "Hey, go protect your mother," and stuff like that. Later on, we'll get into that. But George, what do you think about that too? I mean, Jamie Lannister. I know you're a big Jamie Lannister fan. He was playing the game. I was surprised at how manipulative he was. You know what I mean? The way he was acting, I thought he was more like Tywin, not like Cersei.
Well, I think he's playing his last set of cards here. You know, I think he knows what they're really up against. He knows that they have no army of their own. They're out of money. They're out of food. They have nothing else that they can do. So he has two desperate moves left. One is to get Randyll Tarly and his men on his side, and the other one is he's got to bail. I think the pressure is finally going to break him at some point, and he's going to bail on his sister because she's become a monster. He doesn't want to be around her anymore. He's not going to want to support her. But until that point happens, he's going to do whatever he can to make sure that she's successful. But I think that unlike before, he has a very specific line. Even when he killed the Mad King, he was doing it because he felt that he was doing the right thing. And in all these years, he's continued to learn. And over the course of the show, he's become a better man, and we've gotten to see him grow. And that line for him has now changed. And I think we're going to see that put to the test. We're going to see that put to the test the next couple episodes. And we're going to see how that shapes him as a man and a character and where he goes from there. Ultimately, I think he's going to end up in the North. I think he's going to be one of the last warriors that goes along with Jon. I could be totally wrong, but I would love to see that for him.
And Rhaegar did when he called his council, Jaime was one of the last people he spoke to, and Jaime always regretted that he couldn't better protect Elia's children in the books anyways, and he was always regretful that him and Rhaegar couldn't have that conversation, because Rhaegar did want to change things democratically. He knew his father wasn't doing a good job, so Jaime was very loyal to the idea of the Targaryens being successful. It just didn't work out. One more thing, George, for you, Jaime, you think that, I mean, they had the conversation that, I mean, we know he cares very much about Tommen. That was also brought up. You think that's in the back of his mind, that Cersei is not acknowledging that like she should?
She's just not acknowledging, not simply not acknowledging it, but she throws blame on her own son for changing sides, you know, and Jaime did everything short of facepalm because he doesn't want to do that with an iron hand, but
George, you went there.
I had to.
Oh my God, savage!
But I think you know, Jaime's just getting to that point with what his sister's doing, that he just can no longer take it seriously. He's trying, and as his father always trained him, he puts family first. He puts the Lannisters first, and of course he puts the love of his life, Cersei, first. But now that all of their children are dead and everything else, he's just not going to be the same person, and he's going to have to reevaluate and move on. But we'll see what happens.
1 second. Did we get something else happen here in the chat? Okay. What I did want to do is I did want to shout out, there's another great YouTuber in the chat right now. His name is Game of Theories. If you haven't checked out his channel, I'm sure all of you have. He has amazing theories, especially on the White Walkers and the Children of the Force. So hi, Nex. Thank you for coming to check us out, and we know we're going to have you on the channel soon. Also, I wanted to do a quick announcement before we get into the next part of the discussion. We're actually going to be giving away a set of Valor Morghulis coin from Shire Post Mints. I'm going to show you guys, basically, we have a partnership with Shire Post Mint. We've actually met them at Con of Thrones, and they're super cool. So I'm going to screen share this with you guys real quick. We're giving away a Valor Morghulis coin and some Greyjoy coins, which is really awesome. So we figured since Axie was going to be on here, we have to do it big because he's so hype. Let's get this up here. So we're going to give away a Valor Morghulis coin and a giveaway, and we're going to do some trivia after. We're going to get Gemma to do that. And then we have the house set of Greyjoy coins right here. So you're going to have to deal with Gemma after because she's the trivia person. Sorry, this is buffering. But since in honor of Euron Greyjoy being a badass this episode, that's what we're going to be giving away tonight. Did we have any final points on King's Landing before we moved into some other parts of the stories, guys?
I just want to add one thing about there have been some speculation and people worrying because in the Comic-Con preview that they snuck to us, we saw that in episode 3 there's going to be a Cersei kissing Jaime scene. And people are like, oh no, God, Jaime's going back to that. I want to point out that in that scene, Cersei is moving toward Jaime to kiss him and kisses him. You don't actually see him kissing her back. I think at this point, this is just me spitballing, but I think at this point it's going to be she is either accepted or is considering Euron's proposal for marriage. Jaime's not happy about it. She tries to make up with them about it. I don't think he's going to have anything to do with it. The synopsis for next week is Jaime learns a lesson, or he learns a lesson from the past. I think that's the lesson that he learns, and I think at the end of this episode, he's gone.
Wow. So he's at some point he's just going to take the Lannister army with him, whatever's left from after the Field of Fire 2.0, and go north?
Yeah, I think so. Well, especially if word reaches him that his family home is under siege. I do not think Cersei cares about Castle Rock, but I think Jaime very much does. And boy, can you imagine Jaime seeing Tyrion across a battlefield while Castle Rock is being assaulted? So that's going to be intense. I definitely see Jaime leaving. I don't know if he's going to separate completely from Cersei and say, I'm taking the army and we don't have anything to do with you anymore. I don't think that's going to be the case. But I think part of him is going to be so sort of out of sorts that he's going to be like, you know what, I'm not dealing with you anymore. I'm going to go do my duty. And I think that's what he's going to do.
Well, we know that he wants to fix the White Book, and that's going to be, I think that's Jaime's endgame, is getting in there. So, well, fixing it. No, he's already in there, but fixing it properly where he's, you know what I mean? Go ahead.
Right.
Following up on something Axie said, Tyrion made it clear he's going with the Unsullied to Casterly Rock. He's going to lead them in the back way. So they're not going to be on opposite sides of the battlefield. They're going to be opposite sides within their family home. They're going to be going down hallways and doing whatever and bumping into one another there. Maybe even without their individual armies or guards behind them. Individual interaction that we might get to see prior to the two armies clashing, and that's something I really want. I want to see that war of words, that conversation prior to anything else, because Jaime and Tyrion haven't spoken since Tyrion killed their dad. So not only do we have to know more about that, but other people have said, can Jaime forgive Tyrion? And some people don't think so. I think he already has. I think that Jaime knows that their father pushed him too far. Again, my opinion, but I really want to see that conversation.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of Jaime Lannister this season, and I think we're going to really appreciate his character arc and where it goes this season. Let's move on to the Citadel. I'm going to throw this to the Secrets of the Citadel, Gemma, because we know that she absolutely loves Samwell and everything that's been going on there. There's some really interesting things that happen in the scene. Obviously, Samwell is telling Archmaester Ebrose that he's found basically 2 cases that were treated. Advanced Grayscale was treated by Archmaester Pylos, but he ended up Archmaester Ebrose told him that he ended up getting Grayscale himself. So basically, he's not allowed to treat to put everyone else at risk at the Citadel. Obviously, they lead very different lives there. But something I found really interesting was when Archmaester Ebrose was talking about how the book should be called something more poetic. And I don't know if this is foreshadowing for Sam writing the Song of Ice and Fire like a Bilbo Baggins later in the story, but that was something that really stood out to me, and I'm actually going to do a theory video on that one tomorrow. That's right, that's going to happen. But Gemma, take it away. I know you love this scene, and there's a lot to talk about.
I beat you to it. I did a theory video on that about 9 months ago.
Well,
yeah. But isn't the Song of Ice and Fire a more poetic name for pretty much what he was writing? Maybe Samwell finishes off that text for some reason. The Citadel, Sam stuck it to the man. And I was so pleased that we've seen that rebellious side of him again. We've seen that when he stole Heartsbane, that was his little moment of glory, and he's got it in him, hasn't he? Because we've seen it a few times now. I cringed when he gave Jorah the rum, and then he took it off him and drank, and I'm like, why? Why would you? This guy is highly, highly contagious, and you've literally just taken something out of his hands and put it to your lips. So I'm really worried about Sam now. But
same thing. Literally, that's what popped in my head immediately right there too. I was like, wait, oh no, don't say that.
I don't think it's going to happen, guys, but I know you're concerned. I thought about it too. I'm like, Sam, get rid of that goddamn rum. I don't care about the rum. You're a wizard. Get out of there. Go ahead, Gemma.
That cut from the scalpel or the spatula to the pie in the, oh my goodness me, the pie in the inn and he's scooping it and it's dripping down his beard, that was worse than the shit montage. Well, way worse.
I was hoping that you know, I was like, oh, too bad Ramsay Bolton's not still alive because he'd probably really enjoy this.
Oh God, you guys are savage tonight, man. Unreal.
I hope the show isn't trying to one-up itself every episode and, like, you know, by episode 7 we have, like, extended booger montages or something like that. I mean, guys, enough's enough. That's it. We're done. We don't need any more. You get your point.
There was like pus and all, like it was like so gross. I was like, oh my! Like I was like, we were eating snacks while watching the episode. I was like having a beer, but oh my God! I'm like, I can't enjoy this right now.
We are going to be so desensitized by the end of this season. It's not funny. I did transcribe the letter that Jorah wrote to Khaleesi.
Let's hear it.
Parts of it, what I could get hold of. From the top of my head, I went to the Citadel in the hopes that the Maesters could heal me, but the only fate that awaits me is the grave. I've lived a longer life than I should have. My only regret is that I can't be by your side to see the world or the kingdom or whatever that you will forge you from the moment I met you.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That's you know, even though like in the books, like Jorah's 40 and Daenerys is 13, like in the show, it's a little it's a little bit more sweet. It's a little bit more sweet. It's more admiration. We know he loves her, but it's more of a sweet love. Like he actually does love her, he genuinely does.
Is it more sweet because Ian Glenn looks like Ian Glenn, though?
Yeah, because Ian Glenn is a good-looking guy. I'd probably kiss him on the lips. No, fake news. Fake news.
Admit
it. But Gemma, we'll let these guys jump on it. Axie or George, do you think that? This is going to be pretty fast here. We know we only have 7 episodes in the season. Curing Jorah with this remedy, are you kind of on board with this? Are you like, this is being rushed? I kind of felt.
They'll really move on.
Get on with it. Move on. Okay, George.
We don't need 3 episodes of Jorah quest. You know, really. We know he's going to find the cure. We know it's going to happen. So as long as it's not a ludicrous reason, they grounded it well. They gave it a good foundation. They found the book. They did the right things. It has worked. We want Jorah around, so why not just let it work? Just go ahead and, it's not hurting anybody. They didn't make it happen too fast. It's not taking up too much time. Just move beyond it so we can get back to the meat of the story.
Totally agree. The only fear I have, again, is with Sam possibly catching it. I was like, don't drink that, Sam, but he did. So, yeah, that's my little worry, because then, can you imagine if Sam comes out with grayscale, he would have to willingly separate himself from Gilly and baby Sam, and that would kill him.
Isn't that what Master Ebro said to him? That so-and-so cured grayscale, and then what did he die of? He died
grayscale, right. Yep.
Oh, jeez. Guys, stop triggering me. I love Sam. But one thing I did want to discuss before we are done with this scene was I talked about the different themes of the episode. Fear and love, and specifically family in this episode was very huge. We hear that Jorah say, "I'm already dead to my family," and then we have the connection that we do know that Sam was with Jorah Mormont and that. So we got a bromance that's kind of bud. I don't think they'll be together for too long because I know that Jorah does want to get back to Daenerys. But it's certainly interesting to see if Jorah does get cured, what kind of conversation they have, because Samwell is directly connected to Jon, who has Longclaw and who was Lord Commander and can impart all this information on Jorah, like his dying wish. It wasn't said in the show, but his dying wish was that Jorah join the Night's Watch. So I would really like to see what kind of interaction, if there is more next episode. I'm assuming that Jorah is going to owe him his life, or at least pledge something or thank him in a way where he can, like, hey, I'm going to help you in the future if I can, but I got to go to Daenerys right now. Something like that. So I'm hoping that they kind of develop that. I love the different bromances in the show, like I say, and this would be a cool one to see them expand upon. Any final thoughts before we move on from that part of the Citadel scene, guys? That one's pretty much good to go. What was the next scene? I can't even remember. Jeez. Qyburn.
We had a lot, didn't we?
It was the Qyburn scene, and that was the scene where we heard Qyburn earlier say that he had a plan to remedy the situation after Randyll Tarly said, hey, you know, Daenerys is basically Aegon reborn, coming to Westeros with 3 dragons. And then we see them talk about how Robert Baratheon had these trophies down locked under the Red Keep, and we see Balerion the Black Dread skull, which is amazing. And obviously we see the Scorpion, which can be referred to actually the war in Dorne where Meraxes got an arrow through the eye. So I'm going to leave this one open. I'm going to let you guys rock, paper, scissors this one. Who would ever like to take it? There's not a lot of meat on the bone. But go ahead there, Axie, if you'd like.
All right. I'll just rudely butt in then. Talk about Chekhov's Scorpion, right? I mean, this thing's going to have to get used at some point. My only hope is that, you know, maybe it doesn't take out a dragon, but just wounds one, and that they are extremely flammable. So, you know, maybe we can start burning those things. We'll see how many Qyburn has mass-produced, I guess, by the episode 7, I'm going to imagine, is probably when this thing hits. But, yeah, we'll see. I liked the fact that, I don't know if I like the fact. I like the fact that they had Balerion's head, and it was a callback to the Arya scene in season 1. And, you know, if that thing can pierce, well, if it can pierce a skull, I'm like, okay, but they've got scales and armor over it. But yeah, I still think that thing's it doesn't need to find an eye hole to do damage.
And the thing is, though, is that dragons move and they fly, so they would have to be pretty freaking accurate. Gemma was actually telling me about that earlier. I'm like, oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? Wait, I don't know why I didn't think of that, but whatever. I know there's not a whole ton to talk about here. George or Gemma, did you want to jump in on this one? We'll give you a nice juicy scene next.
Yeah, I've got a few points. I troll social. I don't troll. I troll social media. I do. Looking for, you know, just discussions and conversations and things that are going on, and a lot of people were saying that's not going to be enough. What I gleaned from that scene was that this was an example. They don't just have that one. They've been working day and night, blah, blah, blah. So I got the impression that what the vision Qyburn has is a host of these bolts in line. You know. If
Euron has 1,000 ships, then Qyburn can at least have 20.
Right.
Exactly. But the thing that upset me more than anything about that scene was the total disrespect. Black Dread's skull. That would be like just walking into the National History Museum and smashing up the Brontosaurus or something. You can't do that. That was outrageous. I was so angry. And just to prove a point. Shame. Get that shame bell out. That was disgusting.
No wonder he's not a maester anymore. Forget the practicing weird things on dead people. He's disrespecting history by damaging fossils.
Exactly.
Yeah.
George, anything to say about this scene, or should we go to the war room scene where there's a lot to talk about?
I don't, real quick, I don't think that it's actually going to kill one of the dragons. I think it's going to injure one of the dragons, and then something else, you know, and people swarm it, or giant whites will jump on it, or something stupid. So, you know, and don't forget, when we saw, I forget which episode, when the wildlings were attacking the wall, and the one giant took out his giant bow and shot it right through the floor of the wall, picking that guy up bodily in air and flinging him all the way over the top of the wall, right? That bow is at least as powerful as that scorpion. That's all I gotta say. The
scorpion is probably more powerful because it's like in a stasis mode, and if you, I don't know though. I mean, could that be is that the spear that Jaime is holding on the horse? I don't know if it's too heavy or not. I could be this like tinfoil. Maybe that's what he's going with after the dragon, because with his one hand he's not able to pull the scorpion like he's supposed to. Now I'm trolling. But I think we can move on from this. I think we all thought it was pretty cool, though. But I think really, like Gemma said and you guys said, it's just an example. Qyburn wanted to show an example to Cersei of what he was building, and he wanted to do it on Balerion the Blackdread's skull, unfortunately. We'll move on to the next scene, and this one's a really juicy one. We're going to throw this one to George first because I know he has some amazing thoughts on this. In the War Room in Dragonstone, all the allies are meeting for a strategy, and we have Yara Greyjoy, Illyria Sand, Olenna Tyrell. They're all saying different things, and obviously, you know, Tyrion jumps in and he says something to Illyria about Myrcella killing children, and it's kind of ironic because Oberyn said, hey, we don't kill children in Dorne, and there's all of these specific things that are happening. You know, Yara Greyjoy is living in a very masculine culture, but she's not a great, I don't want to say, she's a battle commander. She's not a politician. So the things that she's saying sound like a good idea, but may not work. So George, what were your thoughts on this? Obviously, Tyrion jumps in, and he's handed the queen. He's a very intelligent guy. He talks about how they should use the armies of Westeros. We talked about the propaganda that Cersei was spreading earlier. So this does seem like a good idea. Do you think it's going to work? I mean, we know that parts of it don't work later on. But what were your thoughts on this scene going down?
Well, let's start out with Tyrion and his resolution. You know, when they first say to him, when the Queen of Thorns and Illyria both say, hey, you're just going to throw our armies at these guys. What are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to go take Casterly Rock. I'm the best qualified to do that. I actually built the sewers. I built the stuff. I know how we can get in. We did this in Marine. We're going to do it again, and we're going to make that happen. You know, so we see that set up at least within the show that's going to happen. Now we're finally going to see Casterly Rock, and we're going to see just how impregnable it's supposed to be. But he had to be the one to walk in and balance everything between all the women sitting around the table. And there's Daenerys, there's the Queen of Thorns, there's Arya, Yara. That's, you know, 4 of essentially the 7 kingdoms are now all being led by women. The queen, you know, the Queen on the Iron Throne is a woman, and now that Jon's left Sansa in charge of Winterfell, that's what, six of the kingdoms are now all being led by women. So, you know, we have to consider that. But Tyrion had to settle that and break it out. He had to make it work. And their plan, it sounds like it's a good one, but we'll have to see how it unfolds. The dragons are the single, you know, biggest WMD on the map. And, you know, I can't wait to see the Battle of Fire and see what happens with them.
Who wants to jump on this one next? Be rude if you want, guys. Just be like, damn, I want in on this.
George said it all.
Did anybody notice that Tyrion was the only person in that room with a penis?
I noticed.
Oh, shit. Oh, Theon. Oh, Gemma, savage.
Just saying.
Yeah, Theon, and we have another eunuch in Varys. Yeah, I thought that scene was really interesting. Obviously, I really enjoyed Tyrion calling out Illyria because,
I mean, keep in mind it was 3. It was Grey Worm, Varys, and Theon.
Oh, my bad.
I mean, there's that's kind of significant.
It definitely is. It definitely is significant.
Apparently, it was a Facebook meme, but I can't. I definitely didn't steal it because I don't go on Facebook. But that was my first thought.
No, George did pretty much cover all of my thoughts on it. Gemma, did you have anything final to add before we move into the Grey Worm and Missandei scene?
George pretty much summed it up better than I could, so spot on, George.
So we'll move into this next scene, which is an interesting scene. A lot of people were blasting this one on Twitter because they thought they could have added something else like Ghost in the episode or something like that. People were asking for Ghost. We haven't seen Ghost. Obviously, we got to see Nymeria. But I actually really enjoyed the scene personally because of the conversation that Grey Worm and Missandei had, not just because Missandei was naked and she's absolutely beautiful, but really honestly, I felt like because of the themes of the episode, fear and love, were being reflected in so many people's decisions. We see that the set of circumstances that were going on for both of these people didn't allow them to truly get into this moment to express themselves the way they wanted. So I know this probably won't be a super long subject that we're going to discuss. I personally think I'm going to make a prediction here that Grey Worm, this is the last time he's ever going to see Missandei. I think this is kind of like the kiss of death. But I don't know. I'll let you guys take this one over. I think that Grey Worm's a goner now. He got his
Yeah,
he got his
he's dead.
Isn't that,
He's
yeah? Isn't that what happens in horror movies? Like as soon as you have sex, that's it for you. You're done. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
It doesn't help his cause that he's a person of color either.
It's true. It's really bad.
That's the trope, dude. That's the trope. You're like, oh no, here we go.
Yeah, we won't get into this one too much because people are like whatever about it. But one thing that I kind of did want to point out is the brooch that Grey Worm's wearing with the 3 dragons. Missandei's not wearing that on her outfit, but in one of the other pictures, she is wearing that during the previews, and Grey Worm is not there. So I think that Grey Worm's gonna. I think he's. You know what though? I think they're gonna do him justice though. I think he's gonna be absolutely badass. We're gonna see him do his thing, but he's just gonna get taken out, unfortunately, and it's gonna be really shitty.
I did actually have one more thought during that scene. During the entire time, I had a voice kind of screaming in the back of my head, "Close the door, Missandei! The door was open the entire time. Is it just me?" And I'm like, you can't have sex with the door open. Go, just kick it. Just like kick the door. Was it just me?
I noticed the door at first, I must say, but yes, I must have got distracted at somewhere along because I do think Grey Worm's going to die. And to be honest, I know this sounds awful, but we kind of need the death of someone we like. Because I feel like so far, who have we lost? We've lost pretty much all of House Frey, and we've lost 2 of the Sand Snakes. These are not the most loved and adored characters. These were both kind of. I know the Sand Snakes we're not supposed to be cheering, but we were. Let's face it, we were.
It was a fan service.
I wasn't.
We've had a lot of fan service.
Fake fucking news.
And nothing of any weight. None of the deaths so far have really carried any weight for us. We need a biggie.
I agree.
It's true. We need someone like I don't think a Davos will die this season, but something of that level where we empathize with someone who we truly care about and love, like a Sandor or a Davos or someone like that, a main character that is connected to one of the main characters in the story. I think it's going to happen at some point this season. I think we're going to have the hold the door moment. I don't think it's going to be a member. I don't think it's going to be one of the Stark girls. Fake news on that. But I do think that something big is going to happen. We're going to have a hold the door moment this season.
I saw a news article yesterday, and apparently scientists, and I don't know where this is coming from, but they figured out an algorithm. Did you see this? They figured out an algorithm, and I was trying desperately to find out what they're basing this algorithm on, and didn't really explain that. But according to the algorithm, most likely deaths were going to be 2 of the Sand Snakes and Daenerys Targaryen. She is the 3rd most likely character, according to science, that is going to die this season. Guys even watch this, but crazy curveball, but it's science, baby. So
we'll see.
Who knows?
There's no way that happens. I think she dies in the end. That's a discussion for another day. I think she's Nisa 1000%.
Ah, yes. Oh, we could go Kyle, we could go so deeply into your theory. I want to, but we don't have time. Maybe another video.
You know what we will do? You know what we will do, everyone? How about this? Since we got Axie on here, we'll pressure him, and we'll do a podcast. It won't be live, but we'll record a podcast, and we'll try to get into some of the other stuff at some point for y'all.
Agreed.
All right.
Sounds good.
But I think we can move on from the Missandei and Grey Worm stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Now, let's get into the Inn at the Crossroads scene, which is... Oh my God. Axie, since you're our guest, and then we'll go with George because he's spoken the least amount tonight, I think. And I know George absolutely loves Arya. We'll get his thoughts on the Nymeria scene, but let's just jump into it. You know, we got Arya. She's mimicking Sandor having a beer, like basically taking a beer from Hot Pie. She's eating that pie, making a reference to the Frey pie she made last season. We see Hot Pie. I literally got on my phone and did a reaction as soon as that happened. I was pissing off all my friends. I put that up on Twitter, which is hilarious. But I enjoyed this scene very much. Arya is very much more confident. She's almost less aware because I think she's kind of a little bit numb at this point because she's a little bit lost. She's not in Bravos, but she's not home at Winterfell, and she's kind of in the middle of just searching where she needs to go. And we see that obviously she changes her path. But let's just take it from here. Axie, what did you think about the end at the crossroads scene and then the Nymeria scene later on?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I thought Maisie completely slayed that scene. You just see the very subtle flickers, the changes of emotion. And by the way, kudos, major props to the show for doing something that a lot of TV shows won't do. What they'll normally do is they'll say, oh, well, we don't want them to have that information just yet, so we'll do a Arya leaves, and then Hot Pie goes, I wonder if I should have told her about her brother, the king in the north now. I guess I'll go take a pie out of the oven. No, they didn't. They laid it right out there. And he's like, oh, by the way, didn't you know this? And she's like, and of course, realistically, it stops her in her tracks. She turns right around. She says, F that, I'm going home. And I absolutely loved it.
Screw you guys, I'm going home. Sorry.
You notice how Hot Pie
realness there.
Go ahead, George.
Hot Pie has sort of become like that fantasy game, fantasy movie, like bartender, where you go in and you ask him for rumors, and he's the one who's like given every rumor out in the last 2 minutes.
He's completely up on all the Westerosi gossip, and he knows that it was called the Battle of the Bastards. He's got all the nicknames.
That was awesome.
He's got the trading cards. If they're trading cards, he's probably collecting Jon Snows on his wall. You know, it's great.
But George and Gemma, I mean, just even Hot Pie being in the episode. This is the second time they brought Hot Pie back. He's kind of, for Arya, he's a soft spot, and we know that Arya has been changing into this more visceral character, more violent, more like Sandor. And Sandor has been reverting back to someone who's more empathetic, which is kind of funny because they've kind of role reversed to where they were in their history. But what were your thoughts on the Nymeria scene, George? Obviously, Nymeria had a different reaction with Arya, and it kind of made her feel like that Arya needed to go back to her own pack. She said, it's not you, I believe. It's not you, she says, which is kind of a callback to the Ned Stark scene where he's talking about holdfasts and princesses and princes and princesses and stuff like that, where we know that Arya is not fit for that lifestyle. But what were your thoughts on that, George, and specifically the Hot Pie scene?
Well, with Nymeria, I mean, they did play us a little bit with the scene from the trailer last week, where it was just a wolf from the pack and not her, and we were all sitting there waiting. Like, come on, the moment one wolf showed up, everybody was sitting there like, Arya can't die right here. You know, it's not going to happen. And two, so Nymeria has to show up. So she did. Thank God we got that out of the way. Now, you know, Ghost will show up when everybody else goes to the north. That'll be our next big wolf scene. But let's get some dragons in. It's been 2 episodes.
We got Sandor Clegane in the chat, and he's saying, thanks for telling me what the fuck visceral means. Well, I love these. We got a Peter Griffin, we got Sandor Clegane, we got a fake George Martin account who always comments on my videos. Who are these people? I want to know who they are. Like, they're hilarious. Go ahead, George.
So, you know, then with Arya, I mean, we know, you know, she changed her mind. She was going to go kill Cersei. That's literally what she was probably going to go do. But now instead, she's going to head up to Winterfell, and we're going to see her do something more important, which is going to be kill Littlefinger.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. Gemma, I mean, obviously, me and you are geeking out over Hot Pie. We both love Hot Pie. We like anything that has to do with Hot Pie. But the Nymeria scene, that definitely changed Arya's course of direction. It's like Arya is... we know that she's Arya Stark of Winterfell, but she's still yet to make that full transition back to that character, right? When she's back in Winterfell, she will feel like that, but we haven't had that yet, right? So your thoughts on the end of the crossroads scene and specifically the Nymeria scene?
Well, Hot Pie will know all the information that's going on in Westeros. If anybody's ever played a role-play game, they'll know that if you need information, you go to an inn. That's just standard.
That's true.
What I
that was my point. That was my point.
Yeah, exactly. So we go to an inn, and you know, she's not just getting information from Hot Pie; she's eavesdropping on conversations behind her. Hot Pie, though, saw a change in her, and you touched upon this, Kyle, that this is changed Arya, and he even says, you know, what's happened to you, you know, and that's sort of reading in between the lines. Why are you being so weird? Why are you different? What's gone on for this to be the case? So if Hot Pie can see such a transition, such a difference, I'm really interested to see what Sansa and potentially Bran are going to think of this new Arya when she does spell. The Nymeria scene, it was beautiful. The sheer size, that was my fourth gasp. That was my fourth and loudest gasp when I saw just the size of that direwolf. We know that from the books that Nymeria was the largest. She was the female. She was the leader of her pack that runs around the God's Eye. So, you know, she was taller than Arya. That was... I'm not ashamed to say I bawled like a baby.
The question I wanted to ask too is because she's been in the wild. Do you think, like, I mean, dragons could probably be bigger in the wild if they were able to feed like on a regular basis and not be like, I guess they do with Daenerys, but because Nymeria is out on her own and she's not domesticated, is that why she's so large? She's definitely bigger than Ghost. I think she's the biggest direwolf by far. She was huge.
She is
huge.
Yeah, she is the biggest. And I think this whole, it's a metaphor for Arya's journey, isn't it? That being separated and then becoming that wild lone wolf. And this is why Nymeria and Arya could never get back together and romp happily and merrily back into Winterfell and everything be all love, hearts and roses. There was no way that was going to happen. We were having a discussion about this last week, and somebody, you know, well, a lot of people wanted her to sort of have this reunion, but for it to stay, for it to stick. And I said, no, it'll be a cameo, because this is Arya, own wolf that she's always been. And Nymeria is the reflection of that. She's a feral wild animal, like Arya is untrainable almost. She's her own person now, and she does what she wants. And it was a beautiful reflection. Lovely to see, but I kind of don't mind probably not going to see Nymeria again. I did want to see Ghost though. How difficult would it have been to just have Ghost next to Jon in the crypts? That's all I'm asking. You know, we don't need him to do anything. Just like be present. They did shoot a scene with Ghost and they cut it.
Yeah.
So they can't even say CGI budget constraints. No, they shot it. It was ready to go, and it ended up on the floor. I don't.
Oh, this makes me sad because we see how sad yet happy. Sad yet happy. It's like, it's amazing. This is the emotion that I felt. Actually, like, could you feel both emotions at once, sad and happy? It's like, geez, she slayed that scene, man. Like,
Ghost is going to be in like half of the episodes coming up here in a second. The moment Jon goes north, Ghost is going with him, and you're going to get like so much Ghost, you're going to be ghosted out.
Whoa, George! Don't you dare say that. We'll never have enough direwolves and dragons.
Ghost is probably not going to meet with the Dragon Queen, sadly.
No,
yeah, no, he's definitely not going to.
I promise that Ghost will go to Eastwatch. How about that?
Yeah.
George is promising.
I don't think he goes.
George is promising this, guys. But did anybody have any final thoughts on this scene? I think all of us were in agreement. This is one of the best scenes of the episode so far this season. It was great. Excellent scene. All right, let's dive into it, everyone. Let's go into the last scene of the episode. And it was a doozy, and I got to be honest here. I think Pilu Aspect has been an absolute bright spot this season so far. I was very skeptical on if he was going to be able, if they were going to be able to adapt it with him in the role, if they were going to be able to pull off Euron Greyjoy. And I got to say that, you know, the Forsaken chapter will always stand as one of my favorite chapters so far in the Song of Ice and Fire. But Euron Greyjoy has killed it in the first two episodes. And I'm with Gemma. I'm kind of a little bit disappointed in some parts of the fight scene, but the way Euron carried himself and acted, I think that it was brilliant. He was sociopathic in nature, and you really felt what was going down with him. So Axie, since you're our guest today, I did want to throw one thing out before we get into the whole scene. The one cool thing, I did a little bit of research. The thing that Euron dropped in on is called a corvus. It was actually used in naval battles in I can't remember which war it was off the top of my head. But Roman, but it actually means
wars by the Romans against the Carthaginians.
By the Romans, but it actually means in Latin crow or raven. The thing he descends upon that's a kraken that looks like it. So the thing he's descending upon, he's literally descending upon what's called a crow or a raven if you translate it in Latin. So I don't know if I'm going full tenfold here, but I did some research on it, and we have the little thing in his kraken sigil, the crow's eye. I think he really lived up to expectations this episode. Now, there are some interesting things. How did he get there? Like the silence got there. The silence got there so silently. Like they got ambushed. They didn't even know they were there. That was amazing. And obviously, Euron killing the sand snakes, and then the Theon Alfie Allen. Oh my God, criminally underrated as an actor on the show. Did an absolute fantastic job. But what were your thoughts on all of that?
Well, it's called the silence for a reason. So I think the fact that it snuck up on them, I didn't have a problem with that. I thought the scene was fantastically shot. I enjoyed every death as much as you can enjoy death. And the one complaint I did have is I'm like, would you really rain fire down on the ship that is attached to the silence? I mean, the danger of Euron's ship also going up in flames seems to me a little bit risky. And part two, where did those fireballs come from? Do we have ships that are actually lobbing fire? That seems risky too.
Did they have cannons or something? Like that's what I want.
Well, there weren't cannonballs. That's a catapult thrown ball of flame. It was already on fire when it left the ship. So we have ships lobbing fire, which it's risky, people, but other than that, all right, it's a fantasy series. I guess I'll roll with it.
Yeah.
But in Byzantine times, that's what they were known for their ships, was they had literal Greek fire that they would spit on the other ships with these giant, like, they call it like horns, like these brass horns, and spray them down and burn all the other ships. So there's plenty of historical precedence for it.
I wish they had shown us. That's all. I wanted to see one shot of something, because I was watching the episode with my happy cool cohorts, and Merrick, one of my friends, was over there. He's my boss actually, and he says, "Is there another dragon out there? Did Euron come up with another dragon? Where's this fire coming from?" So there's enough of a question of people going, "Where's the source of this fire?" So that I think it would have been nice to have seen just one arm throwing fire or something. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where it came from. Gemma, go ahead. I mean, if you have an answer.
This scene, to be honest, it wasn't. It's been hyped up so much, and sometimes, and this is what I do to myself, because this is my life, and I absolutely. And I just saturate myself with this stuff. Sometimes the hype and the theories and the detail I look into, when it actually comes to the event, it's a bit of a where because and it's my own fault, because because I've anticipated what's going to happen. Sometimes maybe it'd be nice to sit back and watch it from the eyes of somebody that didn't know, but this is my life, this is my passion. So it's a two-sided coin. I thought elements of it were edited weirdly, to be honest, especially at the very beginning of it. It was a bit jarring, and I'm not sure if it was meant to be like that or if it was just, I'm really not sure. Theon was fab. Theon was absolutely wonderful, yeah. and I didn't even yeah. have a Theon moment, because we know why. Right. We know why. Right. We didn't need to say, how could you do such a, because we know. And it's just, this poor guy, he's in the dirt on the ground, and he's just getting kicked and kicked repeatedly. It's terribly tragic, and I'm wondering, everyone's waiting for this redemption arc from Theon, and guys, never.
I'm going to throw something in here. And we did get a $10 donation from Peach. Thank you so much. I do have the 2 questions from the Super Chat donations for you guys after, so I will make sure that I get to those. But people forget that the word pantheon means all of the gods, and the root word for pantheon is theon, which actually means God. So I don't know if necessarily, because Theon lost his manhood and then he essentially lost his ability to procreate. I'm 100% of the belief, and I've talked about this before, that I believe Theon is going to be Theon, the latecomer, reborn again. I think he's going to swoop in and he's going to take out Euron at some point, and he's going to kill him with the bow. And I had this crazy theory about it, but I think that Theon, this is what he needed. I mean, we see things happen in threes. Daenerys has lit 2 fires. Theon has failed Yara twice. Jon has done all these things twice. So all of these things that are happening, I feel like this had to happen for Theon to even progress forward anymore, because where was his character arc actually going? So that, for me, I understand why people would be down on him, but I think Theon is going to do something so immensely amazing because of this moment now. That's my opinion, though. But I loved the fight scenes. I thought that Euron was fantastic. That fatality. He pushes Obara down with pure strength and then just kills her. I was blown away by some of the moves that he had.
That not just that, the last visual that we had when Theon's clutching that driftwood or whatever and looking up, and you see just the prow of the ship. You've got one sand snake just hanging there, and the other one's just speared through. I'm like, oh my god, dude.
Also, one thing that...
Sorry, didn't you love the way that Obara was killed with her own spear and Nymeria was killed with her own whip?
Own whip, yeah.
Yes. They were like fatalities from Mortal Kombat. It was so awesome. And Euron was lifting. He was brutal. He was like a real Viking. Like how he would feel like if he was trying to go to Valhalla or some shit. You know? Yeah. I was like, wow. Euron Greyjoy. I felt, and we were talking about this before we got on the show, Victarion. It felt like Victarion and Euron. Yes. The brutalness of Victarion is merged with the cunning, charismatic, psychopathic Euron Greyjoy. And I think that we're in for a treat with his storyline this season. We may not see more fighting from him or fighting at all, but I think that we got a treat this episode with that. George, obviously your beard right now is fashioned after Euron Greyjoy. You know what I mean? You're trying to celebrate this occasion. You did it last night, and I showed it on Twitter. I think we got 30 likes. You are the silver fox. But what were your thoughts on this scene, man? Did you enjoy it? I loved it.
I thought it was a bit over the top, but with every other bit we've had for Euron so far, I wasn't happy with him. I was not impressed. At least he brought it. I'm willing to throw away all the other crap. Just roll from here on out with him at this point. Let's deal with him. That's gonna be the best we're gonna get out of him. And at least he might have an opportunity to be somewhat close to both Euron at this point. But he doesn't have an eye patch, so he'll never get 100% from me.
He's going to have an eye patch after Theon hits him with the bow, or Samwell does. Samwell's going to do it in Old Town when Euron reaves the Old Town. But I don't know. I think it's going to happen. Go ahead, Axie.
I do feel like that he is a bit of an amalgamation between Victarion and Euron. I think there are some roles in the books that we have yet to read that Victarion's going to play that I believe that Euron is playing right now. So... yeah, it's interesting to me that he's just Euron. They could have changed the name to Vic Euron or something. I don't know. But yeah, I had no idea. The scene was cut very quickly and strangely and confusedly, but I do think at least partly that was on purpose to sort of get you into the craziness of combat and how weird it was. But yeah, overall, I did enjoy the scene. I know there are a lot of people hating on Theon and the choice that he made. But I don't think it was a choice. I think, someone dealing with PTSD as Theon clearly is, he was at that point and you saw the camera was showing him the fates of these people who were falling under the knife. And it just broke, man. And sometimes it happens. And again, I'm hopeful. Some of you guys are thinking maybe that he doesn't get a redemptive arc. I am very hopeful that he gets one more redemption. And we see the Theon of old.
Do we, Gemma, did you have any final thoughts on this one? I don't have too much more to add other than I think that it's interesting. I think that Illyria and Yara are the gift. Are we in agreement on that panel? I think that that's probably what's going on here, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And that's going to be that Rickard and Brandon Stark.
Yep. Yep.
Cersei's going to do something to them, and that's going to be part of the reason why Jaime fractures from them. I think that he's going to continue to see more violent behavior from her going forward. Okay, so what I'm going to ask from my panel here is, what do we rate the episode out of 10? Or which episode did you prefer, episode 1 or 2? I actually preferred episode 1 because I'm biased, because I love Sandor Clegane. I did really enjoy this episode, though. Axie, what about you?
Oh, man. Which one did I like? You know what? I'm going to give the narrow edge to this one, simply because of Nymeria, simply because of Alfie Allen's acting. I think we got further into the story, and this is not a knock on episode 1. I loved episode 1. There were things in this episode that I did not like, but overall, I really liked it. So yeah, I'm giving it an 8.9 on a 10 scale.
That's about what I would give it too. Excelente, mi amigo. Gemma, what would you give it out of 10? And did you like it more than episode 1?
Yes, I liked it better than the first episode. 100% liked it better. I don't do out of 10. I go by gasps. If it's enough to gasp in me, bearing in mind it is 2 a.m. and I'm on my own watching Game of Thrones, so for me to audibly gasp is quite a big deal. Episode 1, there was 1. Episode 2, there was 4 gasps, so that's a done deal, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is. And George?
I'm almost looking at it as one big long episode. I think you just make this one big movie, because all it is it's tying everything up from before and getting everything prepared for the rest of the show. Now we can move on. Like I was saying kind of about with Jorah earlier, get to secure him so we can move on and get to the heart of the story, because they only have so many episodes left to finalize this. If I have to make a choice, wow, one was that really good pizza that I needed after being starved for a year, and I just wanted some pizza, and that was some freaking good pizza, and I certainly wasn't disappointed. Episode 2, that was some really good pizza after I had really good pizza, so I have no complaints about either one.
George, you got to continue with the pizza analogy throughout the rest of the season. We'll see one of them maybe has some pineapple on it, depending on how you prefer your pizza. Then that may be good or bad, but no, I like it.
And we have a pretty split chat here. We still have 220 people watching us, which is awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. We're having a blast. What we're actually going to do is we got a couple super chat questions. We got 2 $10 donations, actually 3. We're going to answer a couple questions. We're going to get into a Q&A period. We'll kind of hang out with you guys for a little bit, and we got to thank Gemma. It is very, very late in UK. I believe it's like 1:30 in the morning. Is it 1:30 in the morning, Gemma? So we'll do another 20 minutes or so, guys, just to make it easier on Gemma. We'll do our giveaway. Gemma's going to have some trivia for y'all, and we will announce the winner here, actually, because Axie did write an article on Watchers on the Wall for Con of Thrones, the stuff that me and George did. Thank you so much for that again, sir. It's Alexandre Laframboise. He won the Azor Ahai t-shirt. We're actually getting our website set up next week, so we're going to be doing a mass. Everybody will be able to get them, but Alexandra, you get, I hope I'm saying that, or Alex, you do get a shirt of your choice. So Axie will get that figured out, and we'll get you a t-shirt. Thank you so much for that. All right, so let's get into the first question, and this one was from Erin, and she thinks, will Jon bend the knee next week to Daenerys? What do we think about that? I'm going to say no. I'll go first. I'll say no, and then I'll let you guys go.
Is that it? Just no?
No, I'm going to say no. I'll let you guys explain.
Okay. I think this is a massive question. This is, I mean, I can't call this, and I've considered the two, surely he's not going to just hand away the North, but ultimately he's laser focused on his mission, and that's the White Walkers, and surely he'll do whatever it takes But then he had that whole speech in this episode that, you know, I'm a northern man, I will do what it takes to protect the north. So again, there's those two sides of that argument. Are you true to the north, or it's about the bigger picture, which would suggest to me that if it came down to it, he probably would. Oh, Dany's just gonna be all swooning all over that. I mean, this is Jon Snow. She's not gonna ask it. She might ask him at first, and he might initially go, "No, I'm not doing that." And eventually, she's not gonna want it, and that will be the moment he does it.
Ooh, I like that. That's a good. Mark that down. That's a. I haven't heard that yet. So if that happens, Gemma, you're getting full credit for that one.
Holy
awesome! I'll hold you to that one.
There's been some Valyrian steel bombs in form of theory and predictions dropped today. Rest of the panel, what do we think about Jon bending the knee?
I can't follow that act. Gemma, you've got that one.
George.
It's going to happen.
George thinks it's going to happen. Interesting, right. Man. And George is, I trust George.
Made it clear that he doesn't want to be king. So let's consider that. And then two, if that's what Dany requires to get her dragons on his side to defend against the White Walkers, then that's what he's going to do. He really doesn't care about anything else. That's his single biggest goal. And you know, knowing that he was brought back to life by the Lord White, who had a reason to bring him back. If that is the reason, and that is why he was brought back to defend the world against the White Walkers, then that's his goal, and that's what's going to drive him.
That's a great point too. I like both points, and I can see both of them happening actually. So kudos to that.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, intrigued for sure. Next question. We'll throw this one to you, Axie. Did the action with Nymeria convince Arya that you can't go home again and she'll abandon going to Winterfell, or did it show her that she needs to find her pack again?
Here's the interesting part of that. I do believe that she will go home to Winterfell, but I think she may struggle to find her place within the hierarchy there. I don't know that she's going to take orders from Queen Sansa. I don't think that's going to happen. Not because that they're going to have fights again. I don't think they're going to full on fight, but they're completely different people, and I don't think that has changed in the years that have passed. So I think at some point Arya is going to have to question, all right, I got here, I'm back home, what now? Does she stay home? I don't think so. I think she goes somewhere else, whether that's north, whether she reunites with the Hound.
I would love it. Yes,
I would love it, but
well, yeah. How would you actually? Okay, so we'll expand this. What if she sees Sansa with Littlefinger? How would she feel about that? Because she was at Harrenhal and she saw Littlefinger with Tywin.
No, I like George's theory.
When Sandor shows up and sees Littlefinger there, and he's going to look at Arya and be like, you know, you can say
fuck you done, bitch.
No, it's not going to work.
We got two more donations quick. Aaron said, thank you for answering the question by donating another $5. But lady, you do not need to donate every time you need to ask a question.
Seriously.
Just to let you know. We are here to do this for fun. As well as Sam, the narrator, we'll get to this one after we get to Gemma's point on this. Go ahead, Gemma. I think, well, you gave your point earlier, but we went here together.
Sorry, I was reading the chat. It's quite distracting. There's so much going on, isn't there? And there's some really good questions going on in the chat right now, actually. You should pick up on some of those. What were we talking about? Nymeria and Arya.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's what I said before, wasn't it? That it's basically a metaphor for Arya's journey. But going back into Winterfell, I think they're going to be quite. I think they would be quite horrified at what Arya's become. But then look at what Sansa's become as well. And Sansa said it last episode. You know that they'd been brought up quite sheltered, really. Had to learn their lessons the hard way. So they've probably got a lot of interesting stories to tell each other.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they're going to be in cahoots with each other. I think that's going to be sisterly love that someone like Littlefinger might not want to mess with.
And actually put it perfect too. They're both different people. They both experienced hard truths. That's what a lot of Game of Thrones is. And I think that together now, and we hear from Sansa, she's home safe. Arya likes home even better than Sansa. So I think that that will resonate with not only them together, but the people that surround them, like a Brienne of Tarth, Tormund, and all those people that will bring them together. We also have another question here. We had another donation. It was from Sam, the narrator, and he wanted to know if Euron's axe was Valyrian steel. I don't believe it is, but it looked pretty badass.
It was badass, yeah.
It was sweet. It had the tentacle on the inside. It was like curving on like all the suction cups were on the inside, and then it had the kraken like actually like tattooed on the outside of the axe. I thought it was sweet.
Yeah, it was sweet.
I don't know though. What do you guys think? Valyrian steel? I don't think so.
I would vote no.
Well, yeah, it's really hard to tell. It was being used in battle. It was being swung around. It was a beautiful axe. No doubt about that. This actually reminded me of a point I wanted to say before about the battle, and when we were talking about Euron himself, he's a different person when he's got that axe in his hand, isn't he? And I really enjoyed that about Euron. Actually, is that we've now seen him times. We've seen him on 3 very significant moments, and he has been a completely different person. One of those 3 scenarios. Right. I find that fascinating. But yeah, when he gets the axe in his hand, it certainly does something to him. So maybe it's special. It certainly looks badass.
George, I think you're a no on this one, eh?
On the axe, no way.
We already talked about Sam carrying grayscale. Here's an excellent one. We'll continue with Euron. I made a prediction that he's going to cut out Yara's tongue, but this is an interesting one from Jaime Lannister. Funny enough. Do you think Euron is going to rape his niece? Give your uncle a big kiss. Book Euron gets off on molesting Aeron in the books, his brother, at the door hinge, the creaking door hinge. It's insinuated that he molested his brother. What do we think about this one, Axie? Do you think that he, there's a rumor that he does, he eggs on Theon by saying shit about Yara. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, hopefully, for one, Theon's out of there and is not going to be seeing Euron anytime soon. But oh god, all I can. My thing is, I hope not.
Worse than Ramsay. He's gonna say. He said he was worse than Ramsay. How could he achieve that?
Yeah, I mean that's a way to do it. I don't want it, but that's a way to. You know what? I'm gonna say no because I'm in denial. No, and my reason is I'm in denial. That's my reason.
Oh, I think it might happen.
HBO would get so much
think it might
for
happen.
that. I don't know. Because
Salaria and Tyene Sand, she's not interested in Yara. So where does that leave Yara? I think there's a very real possibility they're going to give the Thalia Flowers role Yara.
Cutting out her tongue.
Which would if you've read it and you know what that means, that's not good times for Yara.
Tying her to the prow of the ship, I could totally friggin' see that happening.
Oh my god, dude.
And then we see then she dies, and then Theon sees that, and then he's like, oh my god, that was my fault, and then he has to have his redemptive arc. That would be a way to push him with it.
Then watch this. Theon kills her with a bow.
Oh man, like a mercy killing, like Mance Rayder.
Like Jon Snow. That would harken back to. Oh, interesting.
Oh my god, things repeating themselves over and over again, man. Jeez, my mind is blown right now.
I've gotten too many revelations today. I can't come on this show ever again.
Hype.
You guys are killing me.
You're gonna turn into Hodor with hype, and you're gonna just be like hype. You're just gonna say hype for your family. We'll take a couple more questions, guys, because it is. Or shite, like shit and hype, because you saw the shit last episode. Okay, we got a couple more questions. This one, George, do you think that Theon was reborn amidst smoke and salt at the end of the episode? We see this happening with multiple characters. We know that George likes to kind of do like, you know, red herrings, likes to have multiple characters actually kind of have the same thing happening in their storyline. That happened to Theon.
Well, I think part of what's being said is that there are, you know, George R. R. Martin likes to play the idea that anyone can rise to the task at any given moment to be the hero when necessary. So, and he really doesn't like prophecy. So he's kind of playing us off with that whole idea that this prophecy really applies to basically every main character in the story at this point. You know, so it could be anyone. Is it going to be Theon? Yeah, Theon was born amid, you know, salt and smoke or whatever. Of course he was. So is everybody else. They all have a role to play in what the Lord of Light wants, because the night is dark and full of terrors. So you know, this is really what's coming down. We've not seen the Seven act within any meaningful way within the show. The old gods we've seen a little bit, but we have seen that the Lord of Light actually does have some material action within the show. So of course his prophecy is the one that's probably the most accurate. And we're going to see Theon and everyone else kind of step up. Who actually is Azor Ahai? I have no idea yet. You?
Yeah, we don't know. I think there's multiple Azor Ahais, but I've also said, you know, time and time again, I think it's Jon, and it can only be Jon. Gemma?
I think by the end of all of this, when all is said and done, we are going to be debating the prince that was promised and Azor Ahai for many, many months, if not years and beyond, because I don't think it's going to be clear. I think it's going to be left massively open. Like George said, there are so many candidates that was promised, or Azor Ahai. There was smoke and salt all over the place. And I think the more obvious candidates or possibilities at the end, but I think it's going to be left open, and I don't think we'll ever fully get a definitive on any of these prophecies.
So go ahead, Axie, sir.
No, I kind of agree with that. I would although George has said for years that he hated the fact that Lost didn't wrap up all of its bows. So I feel like if he leaves us with a bow that big, that it's sort of going against his character. But we'll see this show. It's slightly different from the books, and I feel they're diverging even more than they did at the beginning. So that's one of those we'll see things. As to the question of it being Theon, no, I don't think he was reborn today at all. If anything, it's a regression. So there's no rebirth happening tonight.
All right. And actually, before we take our last question of the evening, we're going to do our giveaway for the House Greyjoy coins and the Valar Morghulis coin. All right. Gemma, you want to cook up some trivia? Should we do it from the episode? I mean, you
well, you kind of sort of sprung that on me.
Actually, you know what? I got it. I got this one.
I got one. I do have one.
Okay.
I do have one. It's not about the episode, though. It's about one of my favorite things, and it's the sigils. So I'm going to think of a house, and I want you to tell me what their sigil is. But I'm going to be really obscure. But I'm still going to be show, hasn't it? But obscure still. Worth. Tell me what's on the sigil.
What? Sorry?
Stokeworth.
House Stokeworth.
All right, so House Stokeworth. In the chat, let us know what is on the sigil of House Stokeworth.
I know. Can I play?
George, you're not in the competition.
George, you can't win the coins. George, behave.
Oh.
See if anybody's got it.
Ronnie says a wolf. Is that correct?
No, it's not a wolf.
I don't know if that person's just saying wolf because they're excited about Nymeria, or they're trying to, I don't know. Kelly Lossman says bats.
No, Southwest is bats. Mermaid is Manderley.
A lamb.
Oh, we're close. What is the Simon McMenemy? What is the lamb holding? And you've got it. Oh, hang on.
You know what? You know. We'll grant that one to Simon.
Yeah, he got it. It's a white lamb holding like a goblet.
Really?
So Simon, make sure you message us in the comment section and give us your info. And you can find House Greyjoy coins in a Valar Morghulis coin.
Didn't Amanda get it first?
A gold cup, he says, yeah. So, but Simon's got that one, everyone. Simon McMenemy actually comments on every single one of my videos. So thank you so much once again for your support, Simon. And we're going to get into the last question. You did win the House Greyjoy coins with the Valar Morghulis coin. And the last one is Dickon Tarly prediction. Will he do whatever Randall does or take after Sam and Bale? The recast is throwing me off. So what do we think about Dickon Tarly?
Well,
that was hilarious when Jamie got his name wrong. That was, and that was a dig, wasn't it? Not a dig. That was like a little acknowledgement that this was a completely different character. This was a bit of fun, wasn't it? But who knows what Dickon Tarly is going to get up to?
I don't know. I think he's gonna die. I think Rickon's getting roasted. Dickon, sorry, I did it too. Oh God, people are saying I was before Simon. I have a screenshot. Now we get a shit show in the chat.
Well, what would a chat be without some sort of controversy? Come on now.
Oh God. So what we'll do in the meantime, we'll figure this out.
We're getting an echo now. Do you guys hear a weird echo?
Yeah, there's an echo. Gemma or George? I can't remember.
Oh, you said.
Is it me? No. Okay, it's Gemma. It must be Gemma, I think.
Okay.
So sorry, Gemma. So one prediction for next episode, and then we're gonna sign off. All right, and one big something that we might not think of that might happen next episode. I will go with you, Axie, first.
Oh boy, something that we don't. Well, I've already said it, but I think Jaime breaks with Cersei permanently this next episode.
Is this after the Field of Fire?
Well, I think he's going north or south. I guess south, west, and I think that's the last time he sees Cersei.
So last time he sees Cersei from Axie, and what we'll do is we're actually going to split up the winners because it seems Amanda and Simon had the same thing. You guys both contact me and let me know which one you would like, and we'll figure it out for you guys. Okay? So Axie says Jaime, Cersei, Dunzo next episode. Georgie, what's your next prediction, buddy?
Well, let's see. I think we'll see Jaime at Highgarden. But there's going to be a big dragon reveal, so I think we're going to see Tyrion watch the dragons fly out to go see Jaime at Highgarden. I think that's our next big thing for that. You know, that's the scene from the trailer where Tyrion's looking up and watching him fly over.
Oh yeah.
Because I think we'll see that before Jon gets to Dragonstone, and maybe Jon will. Here's what's going to happen. Jon will show up at Dragonstone after the dragons return from Highgarden. And everyone will know how powerful the dragons are. And at that point, no one will mind when Jon says, yeah, you win.
Wow, so you're saying that Jon's going to bend the knee then, Georgie?
I've been saying that all along. I think I think that's going to be the ultimate reason when he realizes that just like his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather who bent the knee once before, in the face of the dragons, he's not going to be. There's nothing he can do, and with the bigger looming problem, he's going to have to make that choice. So I think he's going to realize that he wants the dragons on his side. He doesn't want all his people to die from fire or ice. So may as well side with the side that is going to give him a chance to live.
It's a great prediction, George. I might just be on board. And Gemma, what's your prediction?
Is this a crazy prediction, something that nobody else has thought of, or is this a genuine, like, actually might happen prediction?
I mean, you can just say whatever you want. I mean, you're Gemma.
Well, I want Tyrion to ride a dragon, and I want Jon to ride a dragon, but I think It's going to be dragons. I want some dragon action. I'm with George. We need some dragons. Come on. Realistically, I think one of the WTF moments next week is going to be Jon not riding a dragon. And I'm not talking about Daenerys Targaryen.
Ooh, so you think he's going to touch? Which one, though, specifically, Jim?
Oh, Drogon. He has to go for the biggest and baddest.
Wow.
And I will make my final prediction. I believe that Arya and Sansa, they will reunite. It will be happy for a second, but Arya is going to get really pissed at Sansa because Peter Baelish is at her side, and they're going to have some big-time problems. That's going to be the actual Stark rivalry, not between Sansa and Jon, but Arya and Sansa.
Oh, interesting.
So I think that we're going to see some of that next week. But that's going to be doing it for us tonight. We had some really awesome times discussing every single scene. I think we said enough. We've been going for about 2 hours, and we got some of your questions in tonight. Thank you so much for all the donations from Aaron and Sam, and I believe it was I said Aaron, Sam, and who else got one in there? I'm forgetting one. Oh, geez. Gosh darn it, my bad. But thank you so much for the donations, everyone. And thank you especially to Axechucker for coming on with us tonight. We had a really fun time having you on, man. Can you tell everyone where we can find you? I know some people know you from Watchers on the Wall, but I put your Twitter handle in the description of this video so they can follow you on Twitter. Where can they follow you, man?
Well, you can follow me, Axechucker, on Twitter. You can follow me, Axechucker, on Tumblr, although... well, warning, all I do on Tumblr is repost nerd artwork. So you're not going to get much content from me there. You're just going to get a lot of pictures of dragons on Tumblr. I'm on Facebook, but I don't publicize that because my crazy family is also on Facebook. So don't follow me on Facebook. Additionally, you can find me at WatchersOnTheWall.com, your primary source of Game of Thrones news and information. As well as over at Happy Cool. I do videos for Happy Cool, and we do reviews every week. Go check out Happy Cool on YouTube and follow them on Twitter as well. And obviously follow Azor Ahai. If you haven't subscribed, hit the stinking subscribe button, people. This is a brand that is building rapid fire. You need to be on the ground floor of this because I love it. I met Kyle, I met George at Con of Thrones. Maybe Gemma can come there next year. What do you think, Gemma?
That's already arranged.
I would absolutely love to. You can try and stop me.
Yeah, we're gonna get Gemma. She needs to be on panels. Yeah. But thank you so much. Gemma, you gotta unmute yourself. We're reverberating. Me and Gemma are Canada, UK thing. But thanks so much again for coming on, man. We really appreciate you coming on. And next we have a Gemma from Secrets of the Citadel. I'm gonna mute myself, my lady. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, most of you know me. I'm Gemma from Secrets of the Citadel. I'm the same. Don't follow me on Facebook. It's completely pointless. I literally haven't checked my Facebook for about 2 months now. Follow me on Twitter because I go on there daily, and I will engage with you if I can. Subscribe to my channel covering season 7. We're going to be doing lives next week on my channel with some of these guys here, and we've got some other great guests coming on. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being in the chat. Thank you for having me, Carl. Thanks to George. Thanks to Axe. And that's where I recognize you from, Axie. Happy Cool. Do you know when you could just, you can pinpoint someone's face and it's not, you said Happy Cool. I'm like, I watched them. I've seen you. Now I know. So there you go. That's where I recognize him from.
Awesome.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.
And of
God,
course,
God save the Queen to UK and Canada and all you people out there that do that.
And of course, last but not least, my hand of the king, my homie, my dude, George Sartiano, the OG.
Kyle, thanks again for having me. It's always a pleasure being on here, especially with Gemma as one of our regular guests. And Axie, it was great to see you again, and glad we got to participate together. Totally cool. And I just want to throw it out to our chat group again. you guys in the live chat, you really bring it. I'm always torn what I need to be concentrating on because you guys bring so much more and a higher level to this and make it that much better for not just as participants but everybody else here. So thank you to you all, and have a good night.
So Amanda H, get at me for the Shire Postman, and Simon, we'll figure out what you guys want to do about the coins. We'll try to make it as fair as possible since you guys both had the same answer pretty much at the same time. Thank you to Shire Post Mints for sponsoring the giveaway this week. I'm actually going to have an affiliate link up for you guys. So if you guys do go get stuff, I'll be having it in my descriptions of all my videos. They are our business partners. They're actually going to be coming on the channel to chat Game of Thrones with us. There's some people that we met at Con of Thrones as well. Like I said, we had such a blast there, but super cool people, and they make amazing coins, not just Game of Thrones coins, Lord of the Rings, and all sorts of awesome stuff. So they directly work with George R. Martin. Super cool people, but we'll be putting up an affiliate link soon. We will also have a website, people, next week, and we're going to have T-shirts for everyone to buy officially. So that's going to be going down. We're going to be doing that. This is finally going to be happening. I've had like 1,000 people ask me for shirts. It's starting to get out of control and really trigger me. So
best shirt in the fandom. What can you expect, Kyle? You have to expected this.
Yeah, we've been getting lots of requests, but thank you so much, everyone, for your support. Thanks again, and to anyone who watches this after, we really appreciate you checking this out. Make sure you go in the comment section. Let us know your favorite moments of the episode. Tell us who you thought the MVP of the episode was. I thought it was Pilu Aspect, who played Euron Greyjoy. Let us know your thoughts and comments. Any theories that you might want to discuss, I'll be down there chatting with you guys all the time. So thanks again for watching, everyone, and 7 blessings.